Welcome to the pre-game week 10 video. So this week we don't have a 12:45 game. It starts off with the 3 o'clock games on the Saturday. So Villa, Swansea. Now Swansea have not been able to really show that kind of form they showed early part of the season, and the results show that they've been quite disappointing. And obviously the defeat against Stoke at home. It was just a man of the defeat. They looked very lackluster. So I expect big changes from Gary Monk. If not, I can see this going into Villa's favour. In terms of players that I would recommend from both teams now, look, Swansea can turn it around, and I think the key players in that team will probably be Gomez, Jordan Ayew, Montero, and Siggy. Siggy did not play the 90 minutes, he played 32, but I expect him to get back into the first team. Might have had a bit of a niggle, whatever, but I think, if you want to go for a Swansea risk, it's definitely looking at players like Sigurdsson for me, away you if you haven't got him. Those are the type of players I'd go for. Maybe even Gomez to a certain extent, but Siggy the one because Siggy he can also take penalties as well. So in terms of Villa, I'll be surprised to keep a clean sheet if I'm honest. And in terms of the player I recommend, look, Grealish, he's someone he can do stuff. He's back into the first team now. Looks like so he's someone I recommend. But there's not a particular player that I'll be like, yeah, go get him. Gested and Marvy, those are players I've discussed before, but I'm not going to say like definitely this game would go and get them. In terms of the Leicester Crystal Palace game, look, Leicester are going to probably play a very, very attacking game, and so was Crystal Palace. So what I think is both of these teams won't keep clean sheets. I think this might be a goal fest. So I would say with Leicester, if you haven't got Vardy, definitely worth a shout. When it comes to Palace, um, because Gale is injured, there's a good chance that Balassi might deputise in strike. But obviously, Gale will come back. Then maybe there's Balassi back on the wing. I'm not sure. It's not 100% certain Balassi will play necessarily in the middle. Might be it's the case, or maybe giving another striker that position. But he might be worth a shout, in my opinion, because Bakary Saka has been dropped to the bench. So yeah, that's definitely a recommendation I would give. For the Norwich and West Brom game, now there's not really much to say. With West Brom, they usually keep clean sheets. So obviously, the player I recommend right about now in defensively is actually the keeper, it's Michael, and offensively it's Berarino. With Norwich, having seen the game against Newcastle, they do have a threat offensively, and Mbokani has obviously got 2 goals in consecutive games, so he's a player to consider for sure. It's relatively cheap as well. With the Stoke and Watford game, I actually think Watford won't concede a lot, but I don't see how they're going to score a result. They might snatch a goal here and there, but I still think Stoke should be able to beat them. So the player of interest for me is obviously Bojan's very good, but so is Shaqiri. I think Shaqiri is still a top player in this Stoke side, and I think he still needs to make a mark in the Premier League. So he's someone to go for this particular game week in this fixture. With the West Ham and Chelsea game, yeah, despite West Ham's, you could say, great start to the season, really, I can see this either being a draw or a win for Chelsea. Look, if West Ham win, it doesn't surprise me. It's just that um, I think Mourinho will go in this game quite defensive, quite resolute, and I think with West Ham's inability to kind of crack defenses at home, that's my personal opinion. I think Chelsea could be quite lethal on the counter with Willian and maybe even Pedro Costa there, and if Hazard starts, he'll obviously be a bonus as well. So, in terms of particular players that I recommend, um, obviously Payet from West Ham, and from Chelsea, I would say Costa probably. Player I would say if you haven't got him yet, go get him. In terms of the last Saturday game, it's a big game with Arsenal and Everton, and from Arsenal now because Rams is injured, that potentially means that Chamberlain is back. So at 5.6 million, if I'm correct, it's a it's a good risk to take. Look, there's no guarantee he might not even start because you know Wenger could alternatively just say, look, Walcott, you go back on the right. I won't put Giroud. But Giroud's been performing internationally and against Bayern Munich. He scored, so there's no guarantee, but he's worth a risk. In regards to Everton, now Everton's fixtures have been quite bad actually, and they actually turn after this game. They become better. So if you're maybe considering an Everton player, there are quite a few to consider. Like I've mentioned before, I'm not going to go into names because for this particular game week, I wouldn't really recommend an Everton player. But you might want to consider maybe looking at some Everton players, maybe. Um, But that being said, Everton actually did perform quite well during this period with some certain players. So there's no guarantee on points. It's just if you want to base on fixtures, they have a decent set coming up relative to the previous fixtures. In terms of the Sunday games, some big derbies obviously with Sunderland and Newcastle. I actually think Newcastle might edge this, despite Sunderland's great record. I think that this has either got a 0-0 written on it, or I can see this being snatched 1-0 by Newcastle. And there's not a particular player that I recommend. It's obvious which players I've spoken about before in regards to Elliott being a £4 million keeper, is obviously very cheap as a first team keeper. There's not many good things out there worth £4 million in this game. So yeah, he's definitely one. But there's not anything else. Look, offensively, we know the players that will be more for Newcastle. It's going to be Yamak from the defence, all the way from the midfield to Wijnaldum and Sissoko, who look to be key players when they drive offensively, and the strikers up front with Ayoze Perez and Mitrovic. So that's the kind of, you could say, alliance they have when it comes to a goal threat. For Sunderland, however, they've been quite bad, offensively. I feel like maybe they've got Lenz coming back from suspension or whatever. Maybe now they might show a bit more spark, and he's a player that I recommend, Lenz, out of all the Sunderland offensive players. So that's that. In terms of Bournemouth and Spurs, despite Spurs' defeat, I think they'll bounce back. And the player that I recommend, obviously from Bournemouth, I still think Murray is a player to consider. Yeah, the one striker I would say is Murray 100%. In terms of Spurs, I would say Eriksen, maybe over Kane actually. I think Eriksen takes it pieces right about now. He's in good form, scored in the UEFA Cup. So if there's a midfielder, a player you want to consider from Spurs, I'll go for him. If you're risky, go for NG maybe. And also Lamella's there as well. So yeah. And maybe defensively Rose has now come back into the first team. Not guaranteed he's going to start. Ben Davies, him, it's not very clear from Pochettino, but those are players I look at as well. For the Man United Man City game, I'm not going to predict this too much because this could go either way. Last season, Man United won 4-2. City for me are a better team, but without Aguero and Silva, you just don't know about Man City. So either way, the players I recommend, like I mentioned before in my previous video from the post game week 9, there's not much more to add to this. In terms of the Liverpool Southampton game, this is a big game for Liverpool. And yeah, with Liverpool, look, with Sturridge injured still, Origi might be worth a shout. Yeah, Lallana's involved somewhat. And that's about it. I think those are the players I would go for. We'll obviously continue on the normals, but those are the two players I'll look at. Maybe Origi if it's not that expensive of a striker. But Southampton, I do think they'll probably concede Southampton, but I could be wrong. They were very shaky against Leicester. Maybe that's a credit to Leicester or just criticism towards Southampton. And in terms of offensive players for Southampton, same as mentioned before, Pele and Mane. And then maybe if you think about it, maybe Tadic, But those two players in particular, Mane and Pele, are the ones that I really consider. So that's my analysis of Game Week 10 fixtures. In terms of my team, up until now I haven't done anything, and that's what I would say. I have some problems with my team in the sense of like Gabriel. I don't think he will start, and I've got him in my team. So that's one immediate one. But otherwise, there's not many big problems in my team, in terms of not playing and other stuff. So that's the first kind of problem I have with Gabriel since my wild card has been implemented. But I think I'd rather maybe look to Game Week 11 with two transfers, 2 free transfers I should add. And maybe then that give me more flexibility. So yeah, thanks for watching my video, guys. If you haven't joined the Football Fantasy League, do join it. There's a video before with the code, so do join that. So yeah, thanks for watching my videos.